All right, guys, today I want to address the elephant in the room, which is the bull market over? I'm starting to get texts. I'm seeing a lot of bearish sentiment on Twitter. And I just want to go over the whole thing because I think that it's important to understand what the probabilities are and the possibilities are in this cycle. And I think it's very important as traders and as investors to not be ignorant to both sides of the coin. Okay, so while there is a case to be made that the bull run is over, I want to go over it, go over what I'm expecting, go over what I'm thinking, and then, you know, see how it goes. So without further ado, let's begin. Now, before we begin, let me just say this is going to be probably a long video. Okay, if you watch to the end, I appreciate it. If you hit the like button, I appreciate it. If I provide you value, only hit the like button for me. And of course, all content presented is a complete joke and should not be taken seriously. Just an income at a 5 2 3 want to be seeing a non-financial advisor. Crypto is a scam. Making money online is possible. Global warming is real. And the earth is flat. Viewer discretion is advised. So please do not take anything what I have to say, anything I say, to heart, because I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know how to trade. Okay, so don't listen to me. I'm just some guy on the internet. Okay. All right. Now we're gonna go over USDT. Okay. They call me, for those that may not know. Okay, the ones that know, welcome back to the channel. The ones that may not know, I am the king of USDT dominance. Okay, USDT is a very powerful tool. It is an inverse correlation to the rest of the market. In today's video, we're going to go over USDT extensively. We're also going to go over Bitcoin extensively. Now, please understand that whatever I say in regards to Bitcoin is going to translate on to your other altcoins because Bitcoin dominance is on the rise. You know, for the most part, alts are going to follow. Okay. That being said, let's get into it. Before we talk about the macros and, you know, whatever else on the market. Okay, this is going to be an uncut video because it's going to be too long to edit and such. But I just want to say this. The Nexus is my premium trading network. Okay, the link for that is in the description down below if you're interested in joining. Anything that I discuss in this video is very clearly explained in the Nexus. Okay, you get the exact trading course that I have that's out and explains all this in exceptional detail if you do not know what I'm saying. Okay, it's very exceptional detail, but it's very clear and concise. It's not a very long course. Okay, now the reason I'm bringing up the Nexus is not so that I can chill it. I mean, since we're here, you know, if the shoe fits, why not? But the reason I'm bringing up the Nexus is because there's going to be a lot of things that I say in this video. Okay, I'm going to show you some proof of some of them, but I'm not going to show you proof of everything because it's just way too much. We're going back in time. We're going to be talking about a lot of things. Okay, and if you haven't been around the channel or you're not in the Nexus, then you're going to have to just take my word for it. Okay, but please understand that there is absolutely zero way that I'm even able to get away with lying about any of this. Okay, because they will absolutely call me out. Now, I've been pretty spot on. Okay, I've been pretty spot on with the overall macro moves, I will have to say. Ever since 2025, ever since halfway through 2024-ish, maybe the 3/4 of the way through 2024, I've really grown as a trader, and I thank God every day, but I've been doing very well, okay? Please understand that it is virtually impossible. I have hundreds of members in the Nexus. It is virtually impossible for me to get away with what I'm about to tell you guys, okay, even without the proof. Again, I'm going to show you guys a little bit here. I have some screenshots ready, but it's going to be one take, and it's impossible for me to get away. So Nexus, I invite you to please tell the people, okay? Please tell them if I'm lying, okay? When I say I didn't do this or I didn't do that, okay? All right, let's get into the analysis. USDT dominance right now, remember, it is an inverse correlation to the rest of the market. And we're going to answer the question, is the bull market over? And we're going to do it a very objective way. One more thing, sorry. I'm a very technical trader, okay? I don't care about the M2 money supply. I don't care about the 4-year cycle, which, by the way, I think the 4-year cycle is broken. I said that ever since Bitcoin took the all-time high pre-halving. I don't care about those factors. I don't care about Trump. I don't care about tariffs. I don't care about any of that. I care about what is on the screen. Okay, I care about price action. I don't care about CME gaps. I don't care about heat maps. I don't care about, you know, sentiment. I am a strictly technical trader, okay? And these are the technicals, okay? So with that information, with this information that you're about to get, do what you will. Do not let what I'm thinking influence you, but we're going to go over the whole thing top to bottom. USDT dominance on the macro, okay, on the grand scheme of things, is in a range, okay? And we have an accumulation range going on right now. What that means is you have 1 tap, 2 tap, and 3 taps to the low with beautiful liquidity to the upside. Remember, USDT dominance is an inverse correlation to the rest of the market. That means that if USDT dominance pumps, the rest of the market is going to dump, okay? So when we're going to answer the question, is the bull run over? Well, we have to look at high time frame analysis, right? We have to acknowledge that USDT is undeniably in a range, as you can see by the blue, and we undeniably have 3 taps to the low. So could this have been the low? Yes, it could have been. It absolutely could have been. And the Nexus knew because when we were down here and I was telling the Nexus guys, this could be the top of the bull run, right? Low of USDT dominance, aka top of the bull run. One of the things that I'm telling you guys, I'm not going to pull up proof. It's up to you. You're going to have to believe me or not. It's up to you. But I told everybody on the YouTube and I told everybody in the Nexus that this could be the top of the bull run. You know, it's because it makes sense. And this is why we're in a range. We have your second tap lower than tap 1. We're looking for tap 3 to either be a higher low or a lower low. Okay. Very key there. Either it must be a higher low or a lower low. We had the higher low. We swept out extreme discount liquidity. We flipped structure bullishly and we've been bearish on the market ever since. Now that is the overall grand picture of USDT dominance. If we apply that grander picture on Bitcoin, what can you see? Bitcoin is not really so different. Bitcoin is in a range and it has what appears to be very clearly a Model 1 distribution. Remember, when we talked about USDT dominance, putting in a higher low or a lower low, right? That's your accumulation model. Your distribution on Bitcoin could either be a higher low or a higher high. In this case, it put in a higher high and you broke structure, which you had this mega giga flash crash, you know, a couple weeks back. Okay. The markets ended up dying. We had a big capitulation. You know, a lot of our targets that we were calling for on this channel and in the Nexus were hit. We had really nice risk to rewards. And that was a good day for the Trader Geo community and the Nexus network. Okay. Again, another thing that I'm not going to show you, you're going to have to take my word for it or go back. It's all on the channel. It's all on Twitter. It's all there, right? We were calling for capitulation. And as far as I'm concerned, we were one of the only ones that were calling for capitulation because I understand how liquidity works. I understand distribution models, etc. Okay. So what could the top of a market actually look like? And remember, we're going to translate everything that we learn here in regards to Bitcoin to the other altcoins. What do we know about distributions? Well, we know that what is a distribution? A distribution is smart money offloading their positions, right? And the market needs time to distribute. The market makers need time to distribute. So what that looks like is something like this, where they induce retail into thinking that the high is in, they come up, sweep that high, because in order for them to sell, they need to convince you to buy because they sell against your buy. So they put a high here, then you go short somewhere, wherever. You put your stop loss here thinking you shorted the top of the bull run. They come up, they stop you out, which is a market long, which fills their limit sells, and then price goes down. And then they repeated that process one more time up here. So this macro distribution, I've discussed this on my live streams before. This macro distribution right now looks like this could be the high of the market, okay? Is this the high of the market? Well, I'll tell you this. Is the bull run over? If this is the high of the market, then yes, the bull run is over, okay? Am I convinced that this is the high? Not quite, and I want to explain why. First of all, I want to be very clear when I say this. I don't see any reason right now for price to come back up here. It does not need to. It already gave a very high time frame distribution. It already confirmed that distribution. You had the big flush. It's very clear that there's institutional involvement in this zone. And it is undeniable to say that this is a distribution. If it was not a distribution, then price would not be going down. Okay? This is a distribution. Now, while I don't think that there's any reason for Bitcoin to come back up to this high, we do need to discuss this low, okay? We had a low down at $102,000 on this big flush to the downside. Alts got absolutely destroyed. Alts went down minus 80% in just a few minutes, while Bitcoin only fell, I don't even know how much percent this is, 15% or so. Not that big of a move, okay? One thing to note in regards to this I was to say Bitcoin, bull market, okay? Well, Bitcoin market, is that Bitcoin this cycle has the characteristics of never sweeping liquidity, okay? In my opinion, and it doesn't matter what my opinion is, but I'm going to give you guys my opinion anyway. This entire move to the upside is very unsustainable. And the reason why it's unsustainable is because nothing was actually mitigated since 49K. We have not mitigated any demand ranges since 49K, okay? You can see this low at 74K missed this high here at 73K, okay? So this demand range was not mitigated. 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 So what does that do? That effectively puts holes in our demand chain, okay? What that means is that price can, in fact, go back to those levels while still remaining bullish on the higher time frame charts. Geo, I'm glad you mentioned higher time frames because let's talk about our high time frame pull. You can see very clearly, and this is undeniable, that your higher time frame pull on Bitcoin right now is just low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Could this distribution that we had on this high that I said, I don't think it makes, we need to come back up to this high. I'm not saying it can't go there. I'm saying, does it need to? No, I don't think so. Could this distribution just be the distribution needed for a higher low to then make a higher high? Yes, it absolutely can be, which brings me to my next little segment in our TA here. Okay. I don't necessarily believe that this low after this capitulation needs to get hit either. Why? Because what did I just say about demand? I just said that if there is a zone that is left unmitigated, okay, there is a possibility, or there's a demand chain, and there's a possibility for price to go to that level. Well, this low, this big capitulation wick, didn't just bounce from nowhere, and it definitely didn't bounce from a Mickey Mouse trend line or some other stupid shit, okay? It bounced from demand, but it didn't just bounce from demand. We're in a very clear uptrend, and it bounced off of the demand, the most extreme discount section of the demand, and the last demand prior to losing some higher time frame lows like this here, okay? So that's important to know. So that brings me now to where we are currently, okay? Part of what I've been telling the Nexus and what I've been telling YouTube is after we had this big capitulation wick, I was looking for swing shorts up around 116K. The Nexus and I actually shorted this perfectly, and the target for this short position is down to 102K. Gio, why did you just say that we don't have to go back to 102K, but you're targeting this level? And the answer is we don't know if, like, okay, right now, I'm saying I don't think price needs to go back up here ever, and price doesn't need to go down here. Eventually, one of those two levels are going to get hit. We don't know which one is going to get hit. We know where we're looking to enter trades. We know based on probabilities what we're looking for. We can adjust our expectational order flow depending on what happens, okay? We don't know with conviction, but we can have an idea, again, based on probabilities, and then go from there, okay? Does this low need to get hit? No, I don't think that it does. But here's where things get kind of interesting. When we shorted here on the 116K high, and again, you're just going to have to take my word for it. When we shorted here in the Nexus, again, we are looking down to take profit at 102K. Now, here's the interesting thing. USDT dominance right now, okay, is bullish. It's undeniably bullish. I mean, how could you deny that it's not? We're in a very clear uptrend, and we're going to come and talk about USDT here in just a moment. But we are in an uptrend on USDT dominance. On Twitter, okay, I want to grow on X, okay? My goal this year is to grow on X. I've done a decent job on YouTube, but I do want to grow on X. So make sure you go and follow my Twitter, okay? Downstairs in the description down below. Go follow me there, okay? Maybe shoot me a tweet. Let me know that you're from YouTube. Just say hey. Okay, let's get some engagement up. And the reason why I want you to do that is because I can give you the updates on Twitter a lot faster than I can give you the updates on YouTube. Obviously, YouTube takes time. We're already 13 minutes into this video, right? Twitter, I can just very quickly boom, 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 post it and whatnot. And when I have the engagement that I'm looking for, I can continue to do this because obviously I am incentivized to grow on Twitter, okay? Nobody gets something for nothing. Like, let's be real here. So that being said, go follow me on Twitter, and I discussed this on Twitter, okay? I posted this on Twitter. Now, of course, the Nexus already knows this, and you get way more in the Nexus. The Nexus got a video update alongside this. But from time to time, I do post on Twitter. Go follow me on Twitter. You'll get the information a lot quicker. And, you know, I said USDT is bullish. Macro trend is clearly up. We swept sell-side liquidity, getting into our Nexus zone, which was right over here, okay? Nexus zone 2 with inducement. We swept sell-side. Okay, we're in the middle of the range now, whatever. What does this mean? For now, all signs point to target 1 and possibly 2. This was on October the 31st, 2025, which was 4 days ago. This is when we were here. And as you can see by my path tool on the red, you can see that the path tool is drawn up towards target 1 and target 2 at roughly 5.2, 5.25%. Where are we now in terms of USDT dominance? Where did we go? We said 5.2, 5.25%. I deleted the higher low and higher high, the actual little structure pull that I had, but this is exactly what I had drawn out. I pointed it up. This was the block, this block right here. This block right here was pointing up, and now we are where we are, okay? So if you were following me on Twitter, you would have known. Additionally, I want to also say that yesterday, I believe, yes, yesterday at 9:30 a.m., okay, I shorted, let me show you guys here real quick. I shorted right here. So yesterday I gave at 8 a.m., you could see here, okay, at 8 a.m., I gave an update to the Nexus, and I said, very important update here. Okay, I'll explain what this video said in a moment, but that was at 8:30. Okay, and we short, look, right here. I took a short here, react with whatever, so I know that you understand. For me to at everybody in the Nexus, not use our very tailored, specific rules that people want reactions for me to at everyone, it has to be very serious. Okay, it has to be serious for me to at everyone. And this is the serious update, and I'm going to go over this update in a moment. But just to show you, again, why you should follow me on Twitter, links in the description down below. I said 1 hour later, if you put a gun to my head, I would not long anything right now. And look at where we are. No less than 1 day later, the entire market is absolutely demolished. Okay, like I said, if you put a gun to my head, I would not long here. So what did I say in that video update, and what am I looking towards? We already established that this low does not need to get hit again. But I want to tell you guys a little thing that I've been thinking lately. When we shorted the 116K top, okay, again, the target was 102K. Beautiful, fine. I had in my mind that we were going to be putting in lower highs and lower lows until we hit $102,000. And I do think that we could still hit $102,000. But the level that we hit today is very important, and I want to go over why, okay? Now, prior to that, when we were over here on USDT, okay? And again, Nexus, if I'm lying, you can come out and tell me that I'm lying. I was saying that USDT is going to make lower highs and lower lows, no matter what, the whole way down, until Bitcoin hit 116,000. That happened, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, right over here, okay? I was bullish all in this area right here, understanding that we could leave this liquidity behind. I was bullish here, targeting these semi-equal highs. Remember, as a smart money trader, as a Nexus trader, I am constantly targeting liquidity, okay? Liquidity is the only reason. Remember in the intro, I told you I don't care about Trump and M2 money supply and whatever. It's all about what I do technically. Well, what I do technically is liquidity. We were targeting these highs, and then we were looking for swing shorts, okay? Now, no different than when I said on USDT dominance on this entire move down that we're going to make lower highs and lower lows no matter what. It doesn't matter what your indicators say, okay? Your Mickey Mouse divergences, it's irrelevant, okay? It was going to go lower high. It was always destined to do that based as per expectational order flow. I said something similar to Bitcoin on this way down. And what I said and what I was updating in that video, in this video here, is that this is a very important level, which is the short that we took right over here yesterday morning at 8 a.m., 1 hour before I told everybody on Twitter, if you put a gun to my head, I would not long anything right now. What was that bit of information that I discussed and why things might be interesting here now? That information was as follows. What do we have on Bitcoin? You have your range low and you have our range high. As we discussed on the higher time frame and as we discussed on USDT, right? We know that when you're looking for a distribution, you're looking for tap 2 to sweep tap 1. That happened right over here. What you're looking to follow is either a higher high and then a sweep again. So you'll have a model 1 distribution or a model 2 distribution, which is a lower high and then down. Okay. We already know that. This is where things get interesting. No different than I said USDT dominance was going to make lower highs and lower lows. I said the same a week ago when we were looking to short 116,000 originally. I said, I think, and again, Nexus, if I'm lying, please tell me that I'm lying, okay? Call me out. I'm inviting you to call me out. No one's going to say it because I said it a million times in there all last week. I said, I think that if Bitcoin sweeps 116K, we're going to go super bearish and we are going to get a very fast move down to $116,000 or $106,000. My apologies, okay? The logic was that we were going to come and sweep all of this liquidity and it was going to be quick. Okay. I said we do that very, very quickly. Now, prior to that, we had very important support at $111,000. Okay. And so I said, if you lose $111,000, that is when you're going to get a very fast move down to $106,000. And that is exactly what we did. We came down, we swept sell side liquidity. Okay. We actually hit a little order block here and we got our bounce. Now, while we were bleeding on that day, Thursday of last week, while we were bleeding, sorry, I'm getting a call from a fraud number. While we were bleeding from that, on that low, I let everybody in the Nexus know, guys, don't get too bearish here. Okay. Don't get too bearish here. We may form a higher time frame range here, before effectively coming and sweeping this low. Yeah, exactly, this low. I literally said, I'm like, listen, Bitcoin does the gayest shit all the time, okay? Lately, I've had this interpretation of the market where whatever I think is going to happen, I start to think like, what is the absolute gayest way that they could get this job accomplished? And that's exactly that was my thinking. Right here, I told everybody, don't get too bearish. And we actually longed this. And we longed this back up to our $111,000 very strong zone. Okay, remember, my idea was if we lose 111, we go straight to 106,000. This is where things now get very interesting. So we longed here. Again, I mean, I'm sure I could find proof if I really tried to, that I was, you know, pointing to that speculative range. Let me see if I can find it here real quick. I'm not going to edit anything out though. Okay, right here. So let me show you. Look, that was good that we found that fast. Okay, so let me show you right here. So I made a video, okay, and I said Bitcoin is approaching our high time frame zone. It would not surprise me in the slightest for the market makers to not grab that final wick low and start a range here, inducing traders into thinking the low is in, only to sweep them later. It would look something like this. We have a lot of buy side liquidity that they could also run for, so it makes sense. And this was, what date was this? This was on October the 30th, so 5 days ago. And when we had our dump down, right, to $106,000, we didn't hit the higher time frame liquidity that I was saying. And we're going to talk about this high time frame inducement block in just a moment. But these are the kind of updates that you can get in the Nexus, guys. It's absolute precision. I'm very proud of the product that I built. This is what it's looking like, okay? So, right, buy side liquidity, potential range, and then when was that? So that was at 4:36 p.m. A few hours later, you can see 3 hours later, about 3 hours later. So predictable of you, Mr. Market Maker. The Nexus is a step ahead of your sneaky moves. Shouts out to Phoenix, by the way. We have now established a low, and we can trade the mid time frame range that forms exactly as predicted. Okay, and that's exactly what I had drawn out. Now this range went a lot higher than I thought it was going to go. Okay, your range initially was this range low, and then what I thought it was going to do was like this. Remember, my thought was it's going to go to 106, and then it's going to be another lower high to then make a lower low. The range ended up being a lot bigger than I thought, but I knew that this red box, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment, is a very important red box, and I was always going to be looking for shorts at $111,000. Okay, so I did short this. I did take profit on this low, and then we did look at these ranges like this. I believe yesterday's TA, if I'm not mistaken, it was either yesterday's TA or 2 days ago TA. I've been a little bit busy, guys. My apologies for not being on the YouTube, by the way, or on the live streams, because yeah, I can't find it, but that's okay. You're gonna have to take my right here. So we drew the sweep. Anyways, not the point. That was actually prior to this. Sorry, I'm rambling. Yeah, I haven't been on the YouTube live because my my grandfather is not doing very well. He's 94 years old. You know, he had the best life that you could have, right? 94 is the dream. So there's no complaints, right? You can't say that this is, like we can't be upset about the situation, but the situation is at hand. So, you know, I'm taking some time to be with my grandfather before he goes. And, you know, I'm very blessed that he lived that long, but that's why I haven't been on the live. And, yeah. So anyways, I knew I was looking to short 111,000, right? And then what did I say? Remember when I posted that higher time frame range, we can start trading the range, and this is your range low and this is your range high. So we had a range low here, we had a range high here, we also had another range low here. So there was a range within a range. You had this as a range and you had this in a range, which I discussed on that video. In this video update, that's what I partially discussed, right? And that we can target this range low and then eventually this range low. Okay, so now where am I going with all of this? So I shorted this. I took profit. Okay. I don't know if I was long. I don't remember. I was long on other things. We longed Sui. This I was not. And then I shorted this. Okay. And then I shorted this. And I let the Nexus know right away. Like, you know, yeah, I let the Nexus know very clear why I shorted. I gave them exactly my super secret, top secret entry model, which they already know. They knew that I was shorting it. They knew, like, right, whatever. Here's where things get interesting now. Gio, where are you going with all of this? Let's delete some of this shit so we can clear it up. And let's talk about, and this position, by the way, was down to 102. Let's talk about some intuition things now, okay? Now, I've been very wrong in regards to intuition before, okay? But I've also been very right in regards to intuition. And here's where things get kind of interesting. Remember, on USDT dominance, I told you that I was stubborn about it. It was going to make a lower high, lower low, no matter how many divergences you had. Bitcoin was destined to go up to 116,000. I told everybody in the Nexus that what I think is the most likely scenario is that we sweep 106,000 as soon as we lose 111, and then we're going to make a lower high, lower low, all the way down to 102,000. Here's where things get interesting, okay? Because we do have a demand zone at $102,000. We are in a higher time frame range. That is very possible situation, okay? Here's where things get interesting. The only zone that I have that can stop price from getting to 102,000 is this higher time frame inducement block that we're in right now, okay? Is this the best looking inducement block in the world? No, it is not, because structure has not flipped. So I wouldn't say that it's a very strong zone. However, it is still notable because of this wick. This wick on other exchanges looks different. It's not a lower low on all of the exchanges. Some of them, it is a higher low, and this second wick took out this wick here, which means what? This could be an accumulation model. At the same time, it is a distribution model. That is notable. Remember what I said in the beginning, right? Price does not need to come back up to this high because we have a nice distribution. Can it? Yes, it can get invalidated, but it does not need to. Price also does not need to come back to this wick low because we already hit demand, and technically on some exchanges, this already got swept out. So we don't need it to. Can it? Yes, it can, right? Here's where things get interesting. Prior to today, I was pretty stubborn that 116 was going to go to 102K, okay? That everything was going to be a lower high and a lower low. Even now, even if we pump from this level, which we're going to discuss in a moment, I will still be looking for shorts, right? Up at, let's say we do make it up to 112, 113. Like when I did my TA this morning and I'm preparing my positions, this is the position that I have. And I did long this, by the way. I am long on Bitcoin right now as we speak, okay? I'm looking for something like this, but I'm also aware that that may not happen. And here's the sad reality of what is possible. Remember, we don't know what's happening. There's no certainty whether the bull market is done, over, beginning, whatever the case, okay? Super cycle this, not super cycle this. This is the part in which the intuition kind of kicks in. And this is the part where I think everybody really needs to pay attention. So if you're doing other things, if you're on the phone, if you're having me in the background, here's where I think you should really pay attention. After sweeping $116,000, my expectation order for my target is $102,000. Why do we need to come back and fill this capitulation wick? Okay, why do we need to come back here only for market makers to fill their bags and then send price higher? Like, why do we need to do that, right? This is my argument here. If we, and we talked about this earlier in the video, this move to the upside on Bitcoin is very unhealthy. We have not mitigated anything on the entire way up. Why would Bitcoin come back for this little capitulation wick, which wasn't even that bad on Bitcoin, guys? This was only a 20% move to the downside. You know, in 2021, we had 50% moves to the downside, 40% moves to the downside. You know, 17, 18% is not that big of a deal. It's not that uncommon. That's just, you know, a random Tuesday on a month in 2021. Like, we haven't had these big moves down. We have not had that. That's just the reality. That's not my opinion. That's the reality. Why would Bitcoin come down, sweep that low just to go to all-time high again? That just doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense to me. For them to come and sweep that low. Can they do that? Yes. And so here was my bold claim that I made. If Bitcoin loses 111,000, it's going to be lower high and lower low. And that I think there is maybe a 5% chance, Nexus, if I'm lying, come for me. I said, I think maybe there's a 5% chance at best that we bounce off of 106,000, which we hit today, and then pop off to a new all-time high. I was like, we're definitely going to $102,000. And to me, it doesn't make sense to bounce off of $102,000 because why would you need to bring the boat back, the bus back? Why would you need to do that if we already did that on the capitulation wick? Okay? In my opinion, you wouldn't, right? Again, could I be wrong? Absolutely. And I encourage being wrong because then I get to learn. I don't lose, I learn, right? I'm all for being wrong. I like to learn, no problem. Why does it need to do that? In my opinion, it doesn't. So what does that leave? Well, that next leaves 100,000, right? Why does 100,000 not make sense either. Why would we sweep 100K and then bounce from 100K? That makes no sense. The answer to that is, well, we probably wouldn't. And why wouldn't we? Because back in June of this year, we did that exact thing. We broke above 100K. Remember, we were above 100K. We're at 109, okay? We broke down to 74K. Everybody was saying it was over. We have a beautiful accumulation, by the way, right? So no different than what you have on Bitcoin, just on the inverse, right? 1, 2, 3. This was 1, 2, 3, right? So this is bullish. This is bearish. That is undeniable. Why does it make sense to go to 100K, sweep 100K, and then bounce from 100K? It doesn't, because we already did that here. We broke 100K. We went down to 98K, and then we went off and away. So if 100K doesn't make sense, or 102K doesn't make sense because the wick is here, and then 100K doesn't make sense because we already did that fake out in June. Well, the next logical level is this demand zone here at 97K. Okay, 97K to me looks not bad. It doesn't look great, but it looks not bad. It looks not horrible. But the thing about 97K is that, yeah, you would be mitigating this, but this is not that strong of a zone to me because you have all of these ugly lows. And so that leads me to believe that if we were to lose 102K and then we lose 100K and then we lose 98K, why wouldn't we go down to like 88K, 86K, 85K? Why wouldn't we go down there, right? That to me just makes the most sense. Remember, if we zoom out, we did this at the beginning of the video. I know it seems like a very long time ago, 31 minutes ago. The things I do for you, YouTube. Hit the like button. This is your higher time frame market structure. Right? That's your higher time frame structure. So if you just look at it from this lens, right, and you don't look at the numbers on the right, doesn't it make sense to do that? Now, I'm not saying it's going to do that. By no means am I saying that it's going to do that. But doesn't it make sense too? Like, it's not that scary when you just zoom out and you like look at it in this respect. This zone for me, 85, 86, is a beautiful swing long zone if we get there. Okay? If we get there. We're going to talk about that if in just a moment. If we get there, I mean, that's pretty like, that's just normal. I don't think anybody can argue that. So these swing short trades that I had, this 116K, does it make sense to target 88? Yeah, I think it does. Everything has been unmitigated the entire way up. In fact, even this zone, sub 70K, has been unmitigated. Technically, based on the way that I trade, price is allowed to come all the way back down, SFP that low, and then continue higher. It's even allowed to do that. So for me, is the bull run over? Well, I don't know. There's no way of me knowing if we're going to come down here. There's no way of me knowing if we're going to react from here. But for me, my line in the sand is probably 67K. If we start closing below 67K, or you start closing below 75K, I'm going to say, yeah, it's probably all over. And remember, my view of things is that we are not in a 4-year cycle anymore. I think the 4-year cycle is broken. I've been very clear about where I think crypto is going. I'm not going to discuss that in this video because I don't want to, annoy people. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter where I think it's going. It doesn't matter if I think it's the future or not, or if you do. Your opinion, my opinion, nobody's opinion matters. What matters is what is. So that's why I don't want to go over it. But if we go below here, then I'm going to say, yeah, the cycle's over. You're probably going to have an extended bear market in that case. And alts are just going to be like basically zero. Like alts, I mean, look at what's happening. Bitcoin's down 2% and alts are down on an average of double digits, 10%. Okay. Like alts are literally going to be zero if we go down there. Okay. So if that's our extreme low, right? 88K. I'm not, again, I want to be very clear about this. I'm going to go full screen so you guys understand. I want to be very clear. I'm not saying we're going to 88K. I'm saying it makes sense for it to, and that we could have a swing long if it goes there. But I'm not saying it's going there. I'm not making any predictions in this video. This is just based on the way that I'm doing my analysis, okay? I'm not saying it's going there. I'm just saying. Because I know some people are going to be like, oh, he said, he's wrong again. Yeah. I was in a stream yesterday and somebody was like, wow, Trader Geo is saying it's going to go down. We have hope. He's usually wrong. I'm like, dude, you haven't been around the channel lately. And I'm very blessed. I thank God. I don't mean that in an arrogant way, but you haven't been around the channel lately because I haven't missed. Anyway, here's the thing. Remember when I said that On Bitcoin, we have that high that doesn't need to get hit. I stand by that. And we have this low that doesn't need to get hit. I stand by that. Well, we're in the middle of, you know, a few ranges at the same time. On the higher time frame range, which is this, that's your range high, that's your range low. You're in the low section, so you should be looking for longs. You can clearly see, like if I, again, we're going to just be objective. Let me just go on a different chart here so that it's clean, and then we'll go back to the other one. If you pull your range like this, and this is a valid range. By the way, see what I said, how the first wick got taken out? If you pull your range like this, and this is a valid range, okay, you can see that there's a lot of gap here. There's a lot of gap, right? We could fill that gap. That's liquidity. There is undeniable liquidity here, right? No one is saying there isn't liquidity, right? If we go back to the Bitcoin, right? And we know that this side doesn't need to get hit and this low doesn't need to get hit, and we're kind of in the middle of both. What do we do? And this is where I'm going to finish the video. We're going to conclude it here. You can see that this position is pointing up. You can see that this position is pointing down. The only thing that we can do is we can have our key levels, we can have our trade ideas, our plans, and we could trade our plan, right? When I did my analysis this morning, I planned for this to be my trade. I planned to come down. I planned to sweep the low. Okay. I let the Nexus know, you're going to have to take my word. Look, I said, I want to be very clear about this zone. Last week, I said lower high, lower low from 116K. And I said, if we lose 116 or 111, we go straight to 106 for another lower high, lower low. I said that I believe if we hit 106, there is maybe a 5% chance we don't go for 102K. If we don't go for 102K, it's going to be from this zone. This is the 5% zone. I highly suggest everyone pays attention here. That was literally the exact low. Guys, that was the exact low. Look at this. That was the exact low. That was the exact low. So what do I mean by that message? To conclude, in conclusion, here's what I mean. I don't know if my lower high and lower low prophecy is going to happen. Okay? We already said that stopping at 102 doesn't make sense, at least to me. Could it do this? Yes, it can, and I'm prepared for that, as you can see. I don't think it makes sense to, and I don't think we need to, but could it happen? Sure. Things happen all the time that I didn't think would or make sense, right? Now the question is, if it doesn't make sense to do 102, what I'll tell you for sure is 100K doesn't make sense, right? It's gonna either bounce from here, or it's gonna go much lower in my opinion to like mid 90s, low 90s, because it doesn't make sense. We already faked out 100K. We already went to 98. Why do we need to do that again? We already hit 102K. Why do we need to do that again, right? To debunk those two, which means this is my 5% zone. If And by the way, the 5% thing, I said it a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, before any of this even, like before this heavy volume that we discussed that I was looking for shorts on, like before that was even formed. We were like well in advance on this whole plan. Okay, well in advance. No different than I said on USDT, lower highs and lower lows. And we were absolutely right about that. This is the 5% zone. That's your 5% zone. So I think it's either going to be here, or it's going to be much lower, down to like maybe 97 to 93. And then if you lose that, it's going to mid 80s. Do I think it's healthy to go to mid 80s? Yes, I do. Do I think that we're going to? I have no idea. And that's the thing, right? Being a trader, it doesn't matter what I think. I wake up every morning like you do. Okay. Take a dump, do my analysis, and have my preparations for whatever scenario happens. So I'll tell you this. This morning, I did my analysis. From here, it's pointing up towards 112,000. And I'm just trading now this local range. This local range is all I care about. I know I don't need to come back for this low. I know that we can come back for it, which is why I have this liquidity line down here. And that's it. And I'm absolutely looking for lower highs and lower lows to come down to here. I will look for longs down here. I will look for shorts up here. I will look for backtest longs here. I will look for swing shorts up here. Because at the end of the day, in my opinion, it does not make sense to come back for the high, and it does not make sense to come back for the low. Neither are needed, which means what? You're in a range. Eventually, one of those levels are going to get hit. Your guess is as good as mine. Flip a fucking coin. And when that happens, we can analyze further. Guys, if you like the content, this one was a big one, okay? 40 minutes. I would really appreciate the love on this one. Link in the description down below for the Nexus. I really, really appreciate the likes. And you know what? Drop me a comment. Like, let me know what you think is going to happen next. Are we going to go sub 100K again? Let me know. Where do you think the bear market low is going to be? Let me know. Do you think that this is the high for this cycle? Let me know. Do you think that this cycle is intact? Let me know. Do you think that we're going to have a crazy super cycle like everybody wants and altcoins are going to pop off? Let me know. Let's get some discussions in the description down below. Let's get that algorithm firing. I'm going to go drink some water because my throat is dry AF after that 40-minute spiel I had for you. But aside from that, my friends, I really appreciate you making it to the end if you made it this far. And I wish you nothing but happiness, healthiness, and wealthiness. My friends, I will see you guys in the next video. Shouts out to the Nexus. One love.